I was standing alone at my husband Robert's graveside at Beaufort National Cemetery in South Carolina at 11:47 in the morning on a Saturday in October, when I heard the specific sound that ended his family's plan to erase him. It was the sound of 7 pairs of dress shoes striking asphalt in perfect unison. I turned. Coming up the cemetery lane, in perfect Marine Corps ceremonial formation, was a full 7-member Marine Honor Guard in dress blues, white gloves, ceremonial rifles, gold Marine Corps eagles gleaming on their covers in the October sun. Behind them walked 2 men I did not recognize. The first was a Master Gunnery Sergeant in dress blues, mid-40s, dark-haired, carrying a triangular folded American flag in a specific mahogany display case. The second was a retired colonel in Marine Corps service dress, silver-haired, in his early 70s, carrying a leather portfolio under his left arm. The cemetery director, who had, 17 minutes earlier, told me my husband's family had officially canceled the funeral service, went pale. Master Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Torres, United States Marine Corps, stopped 6 feet from my husband's grave. He came to attention. He saluted the casket. Then he turned to me and said, in a voice that carried across the empty cemetery, "Mrs. Bennett!" Master Gunnery Sergeant Robert Bennett served the United States Marine Corps for 32 years. He does not get buried alone. Not today, not ever. I could not, at that moment, speak. Colonel Ashworth stepped forward. He handed me the leather portfolio. He said, "Ma'am, your husband asked me to give this to you the moment his family walked away. May I explain what is inside?" Robert and his family. My name is Sarah Bennett. I am 42 years old. I was married to Master Gunnery Sergeant Robert James Bennett, United States Marine Corps, retired, for 18 years, until he died on Wednesday, October 22nd, at 3:47 a.m., at Beaufort Memorial Hospital, of pancreatic cancer he had been fighting for 3 years. He was 58 years old when he died. I want to tell you about Robert before I tell you about the cemetery. Robert enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1985, at the age of 18, 1 week after he graduated from Beaufort High School. He served for 32 years. He retired in 2017 as a Master Gunnery Sergeant, the 9th highest enlisted rank in the Marine Corps, a rank held by fewer than 400 Marines at any given time. He served 2 combat tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan, and 1 specific classified deployment I cannot name. He was awarded the Bronze Star with Valor in 2007. He was awarded the Purple Heart in 2010. He was, per every fitness report of his career, the specific kind of Marine who was described in his final evaluation as a Marine's Marine. Robert and I met in 2006, at a small barbecue restaurant in Beaufort. I was 22, he was 38. I was a waitress. He came in for lunch every Wednesday for 6 weeks before he asked me for my phone number. When he finally asked, he said, per his exact phrasing that I have remembered for 18 years, "Sarah, I have watched you handle every difficult customer in this restaurant with more grace than most officers show in a combat theater. I would like to take you to dinner. If you say no, I will still come in every Wednesday, because I like the barbecue." We married in 2007 at the small Baptist church on Bay Street, where his mother had been baptized in 1949. We had 2 children. Our daughter Rachel was born in 2009. Our son Michael was born in 2011. Rachel is currently a sophomore at the College of Charleston. Michael is a senior at Beaufort High School, his father's high school. I want to tell you about Robert's family now, because they are the entire first half of this story. Robert had 2 siblings. His older sister, Diane Bennett Cole, was 61 at the time of Robert's death. She lived in Columbia, South Carolina. She had been an elementary school principal for 24 years. She had, per Robert's own repeated description over the 18 years of our marriage, been the specific person in the family who never understood why anyone would want to wear a uniform. Robert's younger brother Kenneth was 55. He lived in Charleston. He worked as a mid-level manager at an insurance company. He had, per what Robert had told me during our engagement, spent every family gathering of the last 20 years telling Robert that the Marine Corps was a waste of Robert's potential. Their mother, Robert's mother, Elizabeth Bennett, had died in 2019 at the age of 82. Their father had died in 2003. Robert had, at his mother's funeral in 2019, per what he told me on the drive home to Beaufort that afternoon, understood for the first time that Diane and Kenneth had never actually liked him as a person and had only tolerated him because their mother expected it. He said, on that drive home in 2019, "Sarah, when my mother was alive, Diane and Kenneth had a reason to show up. Now they don't. I want you to remember that, because when I die, someday, Diane and Kenneth are not going to be there." I did not, at the time, believe him. I believed him now. I want to describe the specific week between Robert's death and the funeral, because it will explain what I found at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. Robert died at 3:47 a.m. on Wednesday, October 22nd. Rachel and Michael were at his bedside. I was holding his left hand. My mother, who had been staying with us since Robert's hospice care began in September, was in the hospital waiting area. Robert's final words, per what Rachel would later write in a specific journal that she has not shown me, were, "Sarah, tell Marcus Torres." He said Marcus Torres's name 3 times. I did not, at that moment, know who Marcus Torres was. I would learn. I called Robert's sister Diane at 4:17 a.m. on Wednesday. She was, per what I could tell from her voice, awake. She had been informed by the hospice service the previous evening that Robert's death was imminent. She said, "Sarah, I'm sorry. I need to think about arrangements. I'll call you back this afternoon." She did not call me back that afternoon. I called her back at 6:47 p.m. She said, in the specific voice of a woman who had been rehearsing what she was about to say for approximately 14 hours. "Sarah, Kenneth and I have discussed this. We are not going to attend Robert's funeral. Robert made his life about the Marines. We could not stop him. But we are not, at his funeral, going to sit through what will inevitably be a military ceremony that celebrates the specific institution that we believe took Robert from our family 39 years ago. If you want to hold a funeral, please do so without us. We wish you well, Sarah." She hung up. I sat in my kitchen for approximately 11 minutes. Then I called Robert's brother Kenneth. Kenneth said, "Sarah, Diane already called me. I agree with her. I'm sorry." He hung up. I want to be honest about what I did next. I did not, at that moment, cry. I sat at my kitchen table for the next 4 hours. I called Beaufort National Cemetery. I confirmed the burial arrangements that Robert had, 3 years earlier, established with the cemetery administrator during his cancer diagnosis. I called our pastor at the small Baptist church. I confirmed the memorial service, which would be held at the church at 9 a.m. Saturday, followed by burial at Beaufort National Cemetery at 11 a.m. I did not, at any point in those 4 hours, ask Diane or Kenneth to reconsider. I did not, at any point, tell my children Rachel or Michael what their aunt and uncle had said. I did tell one person. At 11:47 p.m. on Wednesday night, I opened Robert's specific leather-bound military address book, the one he had kept in the top drawer of his desk since his retirement in 2017. I flipped through it until I found the specific name my husband had said 3 times before he died. Marcus Torres. There was a phone number. I called it at 11:52 p.m. A man answered on the 3rd ring. He said, "Torres." I said, "Master Gunnery Sergeant Torres. This is Sarah Bennett, Robert's wife." Robert died this morning at 3:47 a.m. His last words were, "Your name. I do not know why." Marcus Torres was silent for approximately 8 seconds. Then he said, "Mrs. Bennett, I know why. I'm going to be at your house tomorrow morning at 8. May I bring one other person?" I said, "Master Gunnery Sergeant." "Who?" He said, "Colonel Thomas Ashworth. Retired. He was Robert's commanding officer for 11 years. Colonel Ashworth has been waiting for this phone call for 3 years." I said, "Master Gunnery Sergeant, please bring him." The 2 men at my kitchen table. I want to walk you through the next 72 hours of my life, because they are the 72 hours my husband Robert had, per what I would learn on Thursday morning, planned for approximately 3 years before he died. At 7:47 a.m. on Thursday, October 23rd, a Toyota 4Runner pulled into my driveway on Ribault Road in Beaufort. 2 men got out. The first was a Master Gunnery Sergeant in his mid-40s, in Marine Corps service dress uniform. The second was a retired colonel in his early 70s, also in service dress uniform. They walked up my front walk. I opened the front door. Master Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Torres said, "Mrs. Bennett, permission to enter your quarters." I said, "Master Gunnery Sergeant, Please, come in." They came in. Marcus Torres removed his cover. He held it under his left arm. He said, "Mrs. Bennett, may I sit at your kitchen table?" I said, "Marcus, please." He sat. Colonel Thomas Ashworth sat next to him. I made coffee. I sat across from them. Marcus Torres said, "Mrs. Bennett, before we begin, I need to tell you two things. May I?" I said, "Marcus, please." Marcus Torres said, "Mrs. Bennett, first. In 2005, in Ramadi, Iraq, your husband saved my life. Not in a metaphorical way, in the specific way that a master sergeant carries a wounded corporal approximately 30 meters across an open street under enemy fire and refuses to leave him. I was that corporal. I was 23 years old. Your husband was 37. I have owed him my life for 20 years. I did not, at that moment, know what to say. Marcus Torres said, "Mrs. Bennett, second, your husband did not, per my careful memory of the last 20 years, mention my name to you. He did not, per my careful memory, mention the specific incident in Ramadi. That is because your husband, per what he told me on the phone in September of 2022 when he first told me about his cancer diagnosis, did not want you to have to know until it mattered. What he said, on that specific phone call in September of 2022, was, and I am quoting him exactly, Marcus, when it matters, Sarah will call. I need you to be ready for the phone call, and I need you to be ready to do the specific thing I am about to ask you to do. Do you understand what I am telling you, Mrs. Bennett?" I said, "Marcus, I think so, but please explain." Marcus Torres said, "Mrs. Bennett, your husband asked me, in September of 2022, if I would agree to organize a full military funeral for him, with a Marine Honor Guard, 21-gun salute, folded flag ceremony, and the specific ceremonial elements that Master Gunnery Sergeants of 32 years of service are entitled to, in the specific event that his blood family declined to attend his funeral. He asked me if I would organize this ceremony even if his blood family objected. I said yes. He asked me if I would arrange for Colonel Thomas Ashworth to be present with a specific set of legal documents he had prepared. I said yes. He asked me if I would ensure that his widow, you, received these specific documents at the exact moment his blood family walked away from his funeral. I said yes. That was my promise to your husband 3 years ago. I looked at Colonel Ashworth. Colonel Ashworth was, at that moment, per my honest assessment, crying silently. He was 71 years old. He had, per Marcus Torres's later summary to me over the drive to the cemetery on Saturday morning, commanded Robert for 11 years across 3 deployments. He had, per his own words at Robert's memorial service on Saturday morning, buried more Marines than any commanding officer should have to bury, but the specific privilege of burying Master Gunnery Sergeant Robert Bennett was the one I asked to keep. Colonel Ashworth said, "Mrs. Bennett, the specific documents your husband asked me to prepare are in the leather portfolio in the back of the Toyota outside. I do not want to give them to you now. I want to give them to you at the cemetery on Saturday, in the specific moment that will matter. Your husband was very clear about the timing. Do you understand?" I said, "Colonel?" "Yes." Colonel Ashworth said, "Mrs. Bennett, what I can tell you now, before Saturday, is what those documents are. They are 3 items. First, your husband's last will and testament, drafted in 2022 with the specific assistance of the Marine Corps Legal Assistance Office at Parris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot, and executed with the specific formalities required under South Carolina probate law. Second, a specific trust document, the Bennett Family Trust, established in 2022, into which your husband had, over 3 years, transferred a specific portion of his retirement benefits and his life insurance policies. Third, a specific legal notice, prepared by the Marine Corps Legal Assistance Office, informing Diane Bennett Cole and Kenneth Bennett that they have been, per your husband's specific written direction, disinherited from any interest in the Bennett family estate, and that any legal action they may attempt to file to contest the estate will be defended, at no cost to you, by the Marine Corps Legal Assistance Office, and by the pro bono coordination of a specific law firm in Columbia, South Carolina, that Colonel Ashworth's son operates. I said, "Colonel, Robert did all of this 3 years ago?" Colonel Ashworth said, "Mrs. Bennett, your husband did all of this 6 weeks after his cancer diagnosis. He did it because he knew, per what he told me at that time, that his sister Diane had been asking specific questions about his retirement benefits for approximately 2 years. He wanted to make sure that you and the children would be protected, no matter what Diane attempted to do after his death. I said, "Colonel, Diane called me last night. She and Kenneth are not attending the funeral. She said they do not want to sit through what she called a military ceremony that celebrates the institution that took Robert from the family." Colonel Ashworth was silent for approximately 6 seconds. Then he said, "Mrs. Bennett, please repeat what your sister-in-law said." I repeated it. Colonel Ashworth turned to Marcus Torres. He said, "Marcus, she said it, on the phone, the night before the funeral. Robert was right." Marcus Torres said, "Sir, he was." Colonel Ashworth turned back to me. He said, "Mrs. Bennett, the specific documents in the leather portfolio include a specific paragraph that becomes legally operative only if Diane Bennett Cole or Kenneth Bennett publicly declines to attend Robert's funeral. Your husband anticipated this. Your husband prepared for this. And what you are about to see on Saturday morning at 11:47 a.m. at Beaufort National Cemetery is the specific ceremony your husband asked us to conduct at the exact moment his sister's phone call became a legal event. Do you understand what I am telling you?" I said, "Colonel, yes." I began to cry. Not per Colonel Ashworth's later specific assessment to me at the funeral reception, the specific crying of a widow. The specific crying of a woman who had just realized her husband, in the last 3 years of his life, had spent every one of those years quietly preparing to protect her from the exact specific betrayal his family had just committed. The cemetery. I want to walk you through the morning of Saturday, October 25th, because it is the morning Robert Bennett's family plan to erase him ended. The memorial service at the small Baptist church on Bay Street began at 9 a.m. Approximately 87 people attended. Rachel and Michael sat with me in the front pew. My mother sat behind us. The pastor delivered a specific eulogy that Robert had, per what Colonel Ashworth had told me on Thursday, personally reviewed and approved in September. Diane Bennett Cole did not attend. Kenneth Bennett did not attend. Neither of their families attended. The pastor did not, per Robert's specific instruction to him in September, mention their absence. At 10:47 a.m., the funeral procession left the church for Beaufort National Cemetery. Approximately 47 vehicles followed the hearse. I rode in the lead limousine with Rachel, Michael, and my mother. We arrived at Beaufort National Cemetery at 11:14 a.m. Robert's gravesite was located in Section 47, near the specific stand of live oaks along the eastern boundary of the cemetery. Robert had, per his own request in his burial arrangements from 2022, chosen the specific plot next to the empty plot he had reserved for me. I stepped out of the limousine. I walked to the graveside. I stood beside the casket. Rachel stood on my right. Michael stood on my left. My mother stood behind Rachel. The cemetery director approached me at 11:32 a.m. He said quietly, "Mrs. Bennett, I need to inform you of something." At 11:14 a.m., our cemetery administrative office received a phone call from a Ms. Diane Bennett Cole. She informed our office that, on behalf of the Bennett family, she was officially canceling the graveside service. She stated that no Bennett family member would be attending, and that the family did not authorize any additional ceremony beyond the interment. I am obligated to inform you of this call. It is not, per cemetery policy, binding on you as the surviving spouse, but I need you to know it happened. I said, "Thank you for informing me. The graveside service will proceed as scheduled." The cemetery director nodded. He walked away. I stood at Robert's graveside for approximately 15 minutes. At 11:47 a.m., exactly 15 minutes after the cemetery director's phone call about Diane, I heard the specific sound that ended Diane Bennett Cole's plan to erase her brother. It was the sound of 7 pairs of dress shoes striking asphalt in perfect unison. I turned. Coming up the cemetery lane, in perfect Marine Corps ceremonial formation, was the full 7-member Marine Honor Guard from Paris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot. They were in dress blues, the specific ceremonial uniform Marines wear at only the most formal events. White gloves, ceremonial rifles at parade rest position, gold Marine Corps eagles gleaming on their covers in the October sun. Behind them walked Master Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Torres, carrying the specific triangular folded American flag in the specific mahogany display case Robert had, per his 2022 arrangement with the Beaufort funeral director, personally selected 3 years earlier. Behind Marcus walked Colonel Thomas Ashworth, in service dress, carrying the leather portfolio under his left arm. Behind Colonel Ashworth walked, in silent staggered ranks, approximately 40 additional Marines and Marine Corps veterans. They wore, in specific coordinated dress, the uniforms of their service, some in dress blues, some in service dress, some in specific Vietnam-era Marine Corps utility uniforms that were, per Colonel Ashworth's later specific description at the reception, the uniforms worn by the Marines, who had served under Robert in his 1st Infantry Command in the early 1990s. They came to attention 25 yards from Robert's grave. Marcus Torres stepped forward. He saluted the casket. He turned to me. He said, in the specific voice that carried across the cemetery to the specific empty section where Diane Bennett Cole had assumed her brother would be buried alone. "Mrs. Bennett, Master Gunnery Sergeant Robert Bennett served the United States Marine Corps for 32 years. He does not get buried alone. Not today, not ever." I could not at that moment speak. Colonel Ashworth stepped forward. He handed me the leather portfolio. He said, "Ma'am, your husband asked me to give this to you the moment his family walked away. May I explain what is inside?" I said, "Colonel, please." Colonel Ashworth opened the portfolio. He removed the first document. He said, loudly enough that the 60-plus people at Robert's graveside could hear, "This is the last will and testament of Master Gunnery Sergeant Robert James Bennett, United States Marine Corps, retired, dated November 14, 2022. It is executed with the formalities required under South Carolina probate law. It has been on file with the Beaufort County Clerk of Court since November 15, 2022. It designates Sarah Bennett as sole heir of the Bennett family estate, valued at approximately $847,000. It provides for the specific inheritance of the marital home on Ribaut Road, the Bennett Family Trust holdings, and Master Gunnery Sergeant Bennett's specific personal effects and Marine Corps memorabilia. Do you understand what I am telling you, Mrs. Bennett? I said, "Colonel." "Yes." Colonel Ashworth removed the second document. He said, "This is the specific paragraph of the last will and testament that becomes legally operative only if Diane Bennett Cole or Kenneth Bennett publicly declines to attend Robert's funeral. This paragraph reads as follows. In the event that my sister, Diane Bennett Cole, or my brother Kenneth Bennett decline to attend my funeral service, such decline being publicly stated to any officer of the funeral home, cemetery, or church at which my services are held, I, Robert James Bennett, hereby direct that both Diane Bennett Cole and Kenneth Bennett be permanently disinherited from any interest in my estate, and that any inheritance they may attempt to claim through statutory intestate succession law, contest of will, or civil action be defended at the full expense of the Bennett Family Trust, using counsel of Sarah Bennett's designation, without limitation as to costs. Signed, Robert James Bennett, Master Gunnery Sergeant, USMC, retired, November 14, 2022. Do you understand what I am telling you, Mrs. Bennett? I said, "Colonel, yes." Colonel Ashworth removed the third document. He said, "This is the formal notice, prepared by the Marine Corps Legal Assistance Office, addressed to Diane Bennett Cole and Kenneth Bennett. It will be delivered to them by certified mail at 8 a.m. Monday morning. It informs them that their public decline to attend Robert's funeral, communicated by phone to the Beaufort National Cemetery Administrative Office at 11:14 a.m. today, has triggered the specific disinheritance paragraph of Robert's last will and testament. It informs them that they have no legal claim to any portion of Robert's estate. It informs them that any attempt to contest the will be defended by pro bono counsel coordinated by Colonel Thomas Ashworth's son, Attorney William Ashworth, of Ashworth and Petite, Columbia, South Carolina. It informs them that Robert James Bennett's estate has, per the specific timing of Diane's phone call at 11:14 a.m., transferred in its entirety to Sarah Bennett. Do you understand what I am telling you, Mrs. Bennett? I said, "Colonel, yes." Colonel Ashworth closed the portfolio. He handed it to me. He said, "Mrs. Bennett, your husband, in the last 3 years of his life, prepared this specific moment because he wanted you and the children to be protected. His family's decision to skip his funeral was not a surprise to him. It was Per his specific words to me in 2022, the specific test I am setting for them. They failed the test. His estate is yours. His name is yours. His Marine Corps family is yours. And the specific 21-gun salute you are about to hear is his last gift to you. He stepped back. He nodded to Marcus Torres. Marcus Torres nodded to the Marine Honor Guard commander. The Honor Guard commander gave the specific command. The 21-gun salute began. I stood at Robert's graveside, holding the leather portfolio in my left hand, with my daughter Rachel's hand in my right hand, listening to the specific rifle volleys that Robert had earned across 32 years of service to the United States Marine Corps. I did not, per my honest assessment of that specific moment, cry. I did not cry because I understood, for the first specific time in my life, what a Marine's love looks like when the Marine has 3 years to prepare it for the woman he leaves behind. After, I want to tell you what happened over the next 6 weeks, because it matters. The certified letter from Marine Corps legal assistance arrived at Diane Bennett Cole's house in Columbia at 10:47 a.m. on Monday, October 27th. She, per what my mother learned through her cousin who lives in the same neighborhood, opened it in her front hallway. She, per the same source, then drove immediately to her brother Kenneth's house in Charleston. Kenneth had received his letter approximately 20 minutes earlier. They spent the next 4 hours, per what attorney William Ashworth later reported to me, on the phone with 3 different Columbia-based estate attorneys, attempting to determine whether Robert's disinheritance paragraph was legally enforceable. The consensus among the 3 attorneys was that it was. Attorney William Ashworth received a formal contest of will filing from Diane Bennett Cole's attorney on Wednesday, October 29th. The contest was denied by the Beaufort County Probate Court on Friday, November 21st, on the specific grounds that the disinheritance paragraph was properly executed, properly witnessed, and that Diane's own recorded phone call to Beaufort National Cemetery constituted the specific triggering event described in the paragraph. Diane Bennett Cole was ordered to pay $14,700 in court costs and attorney's fees to the Bennett Family Trust. She has not, in the 6 weeks since, made the payment. The trust has, per attorney Ashworth's advice, filed a lien against her house in Columbia. Kenneth Bennett did not, per what I have heard, join the contest of will. He has, since Monday, October 27th, called me exactly 1 time. The phone call was 3 minutes long. He said, per my careful memory, Sarah, I don't know what happened. I was following Diane. I should have known better. If Robert can forgive me, wherever he is, please tell him I'm sorry. I know he can't, but please tell him. I did not on that phone call tell Kenneth that Robert had specifically anticipated Kenneth's later apology. I did not tell Kenneth that Robert had, per what Colonel Ashworth mentioned to me at the funeral reception, said to Colonel Ashworth in 2022, Kenneth is going to call Sarah after they get the letter. He's going to apologize. Tell Sarah that it's her decision what to do with the apology. But Kenneth is not going to be included in anything. I did not tell Kenneth that. I said, Kenneth, I'll tell him. That was the last time I spoke to Kenneth Bennett. Rachel and Michael are, at the time I am telling you this story, both doing well. Rachel is finishing her sophomore year at the College of Charleston. Michael has, per his father's specific written wishes for his college fund from the Bennett Family Trust, applied to the Marine Corps ROTC program at the Citadel. He was accepted in early January. He begins in the fall. Robert would, per my honest assessment, be very proud. Master Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Torres and his wife Elena come to my house every Sunday for dinner. Elena is a school teacher. Marcus is now the senior enlisted advisor at Paris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot. He has, per his own quiet mention at Thanksgiving dinner last month, been recommended for promotion to Sergeant Major, the highest enlisted rank in the Marine Corps. If he is promoted, he will be one of approximately 35 sergeants major in the entire Marine Corps. Colonel Thomas Ashworth attended Christmas dinner at my house on Ribot Road on December 25th. He was, at 71 years old, per Marcus Torres's specific gentle description on the drive home, the Marine colonel who cried 3 times at your Christmas dinner and pretended it was the pepper in the stuffing. I have not, since Robert's funeral, communicated with Diane Bennett Cole. I do not intend to. She has, per what I have heard through my mother's cousin, moved from Columbia to Florida in December to be closer to her adult son. She did not send me a Christmas card. I did not send her one. The leather portfolio Colonel Ashworth handed me at Robert's graveside is currently on the top shelf of Robert's home office bookshelf. I have not opened it since Saturday, October 25th. I do not need to open it. I know what is inside. I know what my husband did for me in the last 3 years of his life. I know that when Robert Bennett was 39 years old, in Ramadi, Iraq, he carried a 23-year-old corporal named Marcus Torres across a street under enemy fire. And I know that Marcus Torres has, in the 20 years since, been waiting for the specific phone call that would let him repay that debt. Marcus Torres will, per the Marine Corps' specific customs regarding retirement gifts to widows, be the specific Marine who places my grave marker beside Robert's when I die. He asked me at Thanksgiving. I said yes. The Marine Corps takes care of its own. That is what Robert taught me. That is what Marcus taught me. That is what Colonel Ashworth taught me. That is what my husband, in the last 3 years of his life, spent every one of those years preparing me to understand. If you have ever been the widow, or the widower, or the son or daughter who stood at a graveside and understood, in that specific moment, that the family who shared your blood had chosen the specific day of your grief to walk away from you, I want you to leave one word in the comments below. Just one word. The name of the person who was buried, or the name of the person who arrived when the blood family did not. Say the word, because someone in this comment section is going to see your word, and they are going to remember that the family we choose in the last 3 years of a marriage is very often the family that shows up at the last 3 minutes of a funeral. And if this story reminded you that the Marine Corps takes care of its own, subscribe, because next video, I am telling you about a woman who threw coffee on my uniform at the airport. TSA escorted her off the plane. I'll see you there.